Sometimes I'll encounter a galactic species where I'm so impressed with how they manage to work as a group. Despite the differences in how they look or what part of the universe they live, there's always this common thread of humanness amongst all of us. There's always some level of relatability with us to them. When I observe an alien race with this intense spirit of community togetherness and everyone having each other's back, it's so comforting. It's also so opposite of how we participate in life currently on our own planet. How can we have these similarities, yet be so different all at the same time? How can there be such vast differences in spiritual understanding from one world to another? And are we the only world that must learn the hard way or have others? Let me introduce the Beta Sextantians, a galactic population that began as selfish and greedy, with attitudes reminiscent to us now on Earth. Eventually, they were forced to confront their ignorance and turn things around for the better of their society and for those neighboring planets around them. The Beta Sextantians show us, through their example, that perhaps there is a glimmer of hope for us on Earth after all. Welcome. My name is Erin Lynn, and I'm an Akashic record researcher and Galactic channel. I have a good one for you today. A super interesting alien race who are good friends with the Regulans and do share a history. I already covered the Regulans in a past video, so if you haven't checked that one out yet, a link to the episode will be below. This ET race inhabits a planet in the Sextans constellation. The constellation was given the name in the late 1600s, as it was said to be the shape of a sextant. So what is a sextant, you ask? Well, it's an important measuring instrument that sailors and pilots use to determine the angle between the horizon and a celestial body. For example, figuring out the latitude and longitude of the sun, the moon, or the stars while at sea or in the air. These handheld devices are still commonly used today, although there are more high-tech versions available now. So how does this relate to the Sextans constellation itself? Well, there's no mythology tied to this constellation, and it's largely ignored due to it being so difficult to view in our night sky with the naked eye. This dimness is because of the distance these planets are from Earth, not necessarily due to the small size of the planets. The beings we're going to discuss today tell me that a location in the center of the Sextans constellation serves as a gateway to a neighboring universe. The portal is not located on any specific planet there, yet is easily accessible by all Sextans constellation inhabitants. So this constellation, named after an instrument of orientation in the sky, turns out to be aptly named because it also orients us to another cosmic system entirely. The Bayer designation for the realm we're going to feature today is Beta Sextantis, meaning it's the second brightest star in that constellation. And the beings who live there want to be known by us on Earth as Beta Sextantians. But really, they just really consider most of the surrounding races as the blanket term of Sextantians. This also includes the Regulans, who are technically part of the Leo constellation. But in order to specify who we're discussing in this video, I will refer to them as betas. Beta Sextantis and the beings who reside there have a long history. While always a benevolent group, they have been involved in their share of galactic wars. Although they have not closed their borders and become isolationists like the Alchibans, instead, they've decided to not involve themselves with the universal goings-ons and don't participate in the Galactic Federation of Light. They do care about others deeply, but just from a distance, and they don't take any action these days. This group does not have any need for UFOs or spaceships. Instead, they are skilled at teleporting or bilocating themselves should they need to travel. And since they also have access to a gateway to another universe, essentially in their own backyard, UFOs aren't really useful to them, and I don't see them utilizing really any other technology on their home world. Beyond their immediate neighbors, they're not terribly involved with this universe and tend to interact more with the life within other neighboring universal system. While currently in the 9th dimension, this galactic race began as a low-dimensional one, much like us on Earth. The Beta started out in the 3rd dimension, and although they told me no other race or negative force was physically enslaving them, They were enslaving themselves via their mindset. These beings collectively bought into this scarcity idea and that they had to care for themselves over everyone else. This ultimately created widespread greed and selfishness throughout their society. And they were willing to wrong another race to enrich themselves. And I was assured that this didn't come from a place of evil, but of ignorance. Even though the betas were a low-dimensional race at that time, they were aware of the other life forms living around them on other planets. They were not cut off from knowing about other life out there in the cosmos, unlike us. They had an awareness of other resources other nearby planets had in abundance. However, the betas did not know that they were lower dimensional in comparison, as they were not aware of this dimensional grading system that we use. So the betas just thought that they were right and the others were wrong. And then how could their feelings, their worldview, and their fears possibly be incorrect? So societal heavy reliance on physical resources and this scarcity belief made them desire to hoard things out of fear, even amongst themselves on their own planet. And this short-sighted behavior created friction amongst some of the Leo constellation planets who were nearby, eventually leading to a war. Now, I did an overview of this multi-planetary war from the Regulus point of view in the video. And to be fair, this is not all on the beta Sextantians, but I want to explain their side in their video. So this galactic war had an explosive impact on many planets, including changing the way the betas now live on their own world. And I will go into that in more detail later. Since we now know that the Sextans constellation serves as a portal to another universe, this makes perfect sense as to why the betas frequently both have interactions and incarnations in a universe outside of this one. So this discussion of other universes is a big rabbit hole that deserves really its own series of videos, but I will do a very quick overview. So most beings that are from one universal system tend to stay mostly within that same universal system as far as experiences and lifetimes. Certainly, the option exists to experience planets on other universes, but it is less common. However, this is not the case with the betas. Their proximity to another system, coupled with their past challenges with the neighboring alien races in this universe, kind of made it a no-brainer to embrace experiences found on the other side of this portal. Again, no spaceships are needed because the portal is right there in their cosmic neighborhood. So no one can just teleport to another dimensional system. So I'm told that going to this other universe is like a clean slate from their past misgivings, as this other universal system was not involved in their past battles and really have no skin in the game with what goes on in our system. So this tells me that there's still some remorse or shame on behalf of the betas from their distant past behaviors, despite the tremendous growth they have had as a race. Planet Beta Sextantis is very dramatic looking. I find it extremely hot, humid, kind of oppressive when on the surface. Their sun is large, round disk that is deep red. This illuming sun casts an eerie red glow across the landscape. Their sky is also a deep blue color. And as a result, the environment is dimly lit, even during the daytime. And I walk through an endless field of what looks like a bright purple lavender, but it's not a lavender plant. It's like 2 foot or 61 centimeter tall grass that covers the ground. Looks more like a uniformly purple colored wheat-like plant. So although ubiquitous, I'm told the creatures that inhabit this realm do not eat this purple wheatgrass. There are no surface mountains, buildings, or bodies of water to be seen. While oddly beautiful, it's a very flat and empty looking realm. Since it's somewhat uncomfortable on the surface of this planet, it's not surprising that the ETs there live mostly below ground. It is naturally cooler in temperature under the earth and obviously safer too. So the dirt on Beta Sextantis looks just like ours on Earth. It is powdery, brown in color, and has vegetation roots and small rocks within it. The betas did not always live their lives underground. Their climate changed due to a destructive force that hit their planet during the war with the Leo constellation planets. It made their planet change to be hotter and more difficult to exist while on the surface. They also had to make plans to go underground as a society to protect themselves from extermination. Since they experienced that major attack, they have mostly remained underground, although they can and do go above ground for short periods of time. Out of necessity, these beings have become excellent diggers, making new subterranean entrances and tunnels in lightning fast speed. They live amongst an underground maze of tunnels that are spacious and busy with a flurry of activity amongst the betas. It's like a pitch black but functioning city down there. And it was crowded too. They have evolved from past mistakes and now are a very community-oriented group and less really about the individual. So the community mindset extends even past their own population, but also extends to those worlds that surround them as well. The betas are physical beings who cannot shape-shift or become non-physical. They look most similarly to what we would call a praying mantis. Except these mantis beings are much, much larger, about 15 feet or 5 meters tall. The betas do have stockier bodies and they are solid red. Their skin color matches the color of their planet's sun, and they have a large, clear wings, but they don't really fly except for very short distances. And their wings aren't very noticeable as they kind of lie flat against their bodies. And the transparency of those wings allows that red skin underneath to show through, kind of camouflaging their wings with the rest of their bodies. Instead, they prefer to teleport or bilocate over long distances. So even when on their home world, they just appear and disappear. And upon my first visit to Beta Sextantis, my astral body was brought to the surface of their planet. And out of nowhere, 2 betas just popped into my view as they teleported to introduce themselves, and then promptly lead me underground to see how they live. Betas dig using their 2 black pinchers near their mouths, and with these large black claws on each praying hand. They can crawl walk using all 4 legs, but usually stand upright on their 2 back legs. And they do move similarly to how a praying mantis on Earth would, except they are much more active. While their pupilless, entirely red eyes are large and bulge out the sides of their heads, the betas cannot see. They are effectively blind. However, this blindness doesn't stop them from seeing perfectly fine. They just see in a different way. So instead, they take in very nuanced stimuli from their 2 antennas located on their heads. As they have ascended spiritually, as a society, more extrasensory abilities have been unlocked in their DNA. And furthermore, they really don't need to see with their eyes because they live primarily underground where it's dark. And they still have eyes because this was not always the case. So at one point in the distant past, the species was able to process visual stimuli, but it became less and less needed as they moved underground. So interestingly, I've actually met a few alien species who cannot see as we do, but they still will have facial structures that we would consider eyes. In addition to being vibrantly colored and helpful insects found in our gardens, earthly praying mantises are most known for their violence towards their mating partners. Female praying mantises are larger than the males, and once the act has been completed, they have been known to sometimes exterminate the males by, now how do I say this without getting in trouble with YouTube, forcibly removing the heads from the male's body. Therefore, I did ask the betas if this was something they did in their own society. And I was told categorically, no, they do not condone violence of any kind on their world, especially amongst each other. The female betas are a bit smaller than the males and slightly lighter in color. That's how you can tell the genders apart. So I find the beta beings' personalities overall to be sweet, giving, chatty, and outgoing while not being overbearing. And they're very interested in Earth and have a lot of respect for the souls who choose to have earthly lifetimes. Currently, the beta's societal structure is focused on the good of the community over the individual's needs. Yet they have somehow managed to strike that balance needed for community service while still allowing fun and growth that is necessary to the individual. So everyone has a dedicated job that they perform for the good of the group. And this is all very well organized with large groups of beings participating. And the betas understand that need for purpose in life, but we also need for fun and adventure and learning and growth. Therefore, these community tasks are not overly burdensome and are not designed to take over someone's entire life. A beta is not tied to only one communal task over an entire lifetime. They always have the option for retraining or have a different assignment if when desired. The betas do not have nuclear family structures like we do, with a mother, a father, and a child living together all in one home. Their living quarters underground are more communal, and any offspring that are born are cared for by the dedicated and trained child carers. And once the children are old enough to both choose their task and then receive training for that job, they are then given their place in society. And the offspring do not necessarily know who their parents are, as their births are done from many eggs being laid at once and not like live births. So the planet does have a large population, but the physical closeness is of no consequence because they really appreciate and support one another. The betas are a benevolent species, but another Sextans constellation race, the Gamma Sextantians, are a light green mantis species who are smaller than the betas, but still larger than us humans, who are not so nice. I have read reports of these nasty green mantis creatures being seen on Earth. I have not met this race, nor have I been invited to tour their world. However, the betas do not visit Earth in their mantis forms and would only be here if they were a starseed soul experiencing a human lifetime. Negative alien species are not friendly with me, nor try to engage, except for to harm me, basically. So therefore, I would most likely and hopefully never meet the Gamma Sextantians and must take the beta's word for it. It is just important to remember not to lump all similarly looking ET races together. Just because two or more ET races may look like each other and they're often very different in their motives and energies. And we will explore this concept in more detail in future episodes. I hope you enjoyed my introduction to the Beta Sextantians, the first alien race I've covered from the Sextans constellation. Insectoid races can get a bad rap in the universe, and I wanted to highlight a benevolent group. I appreciate the Beta's transparency and willingness to admit their previous societal shortcomings. Any ET groups mentioned in this video that I've made videos about before will be linked below in the show notes. If you enjoy this video and want to view more content like this, kindly subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell and check out my other videos highlighting other previously unknown galactic races in our universe. Should you want to have your Akashic record read by me, the link to the website is below. In the meantime, I love you all and welcome to a higher dimension.